Now, the price of Australian property has reached new dizzying heights, with more than a third of homes nationally valued over $1 million or more. According to figures from Cotality, the old CoreLogic, regionally, about 20% of homes are valued over $1 million or higher as well. In capital cities, it's over 41%, while in Sydney, almost two-thirds of homes are past the $1 million threshold. To analyse the figures and offer hope to those yet to break into the market, Ray White Chief Economist Nerida Conisbee joins me now. Nerida, the $1 million price tag has become increasingly standard. Give us some examples of the big leaps up to that level.
Well, if you think 10 years ago, Sydney only had a median of around 890,000, so it has been an incredible change. It's now sitting at 1.6 million. Gold Coast, 5 years ago, the median was sitting at around 750,000. It's now at almost 1.2. And then the really big growth market of Adelaide, we were seeing a median of around 500,000 10 years ago. It's 900,000 now. It'll probably hit $1 million in about 12 months.
Wow. The property league table, if you like, has changed a lot, isn't it? Melbourne has dropped right down, been overtaken by Brisbane and Adelaide and soon to be Perth. Why has Melbourne dropped so much in that median value?
So Melbourne had a really tough time during the pandemic. People were locked down for a long period of time. It did lead to the economy growing quite slowly over that time period. Since then, Melbourne has continued to attract a lot of people, but to pay back a lot of the COVID debt, they've had to tax property quite significantly. So as a result, we have seen a lot of investors in particular sell out of the market. And so there has been a reduction in rental properties, and prices have been far more stable and actually come back compared to markets like Adelaide, which are moving very, very quickly at the moment.
You mentioned Brisbane at the other end of the scale. 10 years ago, only 3% of properties with that $1 million price tag, now 40%. Incredible. Where's that come from?
Population growth. So Southeast Queensland has been attracting a very high share of interstate movement in particular. So it's not just Brisbane, it's really the area extending from Byron Bay up to Gold Coast, around to Brisbane, up to Sunshine Coast.
Where are the regions, the suburbs, that you can see the biggest growth to get above that $1 million tag in the near future for people who want to get their leg aboard the property market?
Yeah, so definitely Adelaide is a market to look at. So particularly the inner suburbs, a lot of them are over $1 million, but generally if you go out to the next ring, the middle ring, you start to see suburbs that are sitting at sort of that $800,000, $900,000 median. Perth, very similar. You're pretty much priced out of the western suburbs, but as you start to move a little bit more inland, you start to get a few cheaper options. Similarly in Brisbane now, if you're looking at places like New Farm, the median is well in excess of $2 million, but if you start to move a little bit out, sort of 5 to 10 Ks, you can get far more affordable options.
Those smaller capital cities, are they more susceptible to a bust at the end of this boom, or do you think it's going to be a steady trajectory upwards?
Depends where you are. I mean, it depends how mixed the economy is. So traditionally, Perth, for example, has been very boom-bust according to mining cycles, but it does seem to be far more sustained this time. So partly driven by the fact that population growth is continuing to happen. Also, a little bit more of a diverse economy, still very dependent on mining, but then even mining is becoming more variable, not just iron ore, it's moving into green energy minerals, so that's helping. Other end of the scale, we've seen places like Hobart actually come back in pricing. So Hobart was a really, really hot market leading up to the pandemic, but just has failed to attract a lot of people in the same way it had been. And as a result, prices have moved back a little bit.
All of the home buyer grants that are out there at the moment, which are the most useful, do you think?
Look, I think it'll be the 5% deposit scheme, and the reason being it applies to both new and existing homes, and it does allow people to get into the market a little bit quicker. So I think it'll be the most popular. There are a lot of schemes available. There's a Super Savers scheme where you can save in your superannuation to buy a home and pull that money out and use it as a deposit. But ultimately, I think it will be the 5% deposit scheme. It's a little less complicated than some of the other schemes available.
Okay. All right, Nerida, great advice. Good to see you again as usual.
Thanks for having me.